Big news in Stockton, California, as a community can finally take a moment to relax as an accused serial killer is now in custody. Tonight, new details about the investigation, the capture, and the upcoming legal battle.
You don't come to our house and bring this kind of reign of terror.
In Waukesha, Wisconsin, the accused Christmas parade killer in court representing himself for the murder of 6 people, including an 8-year-old boy. We are live from Wisconsin with all the big moments from court as prosecutors call their final witnesses.
It has to be proven for the record. It has yet to be proven.
You are simply wrong as a matter of law.
No, I'm not.
And on the docket tonight in Palm Beach County, Florida, huge developments in the killer clown trial. The defense accuses the prosecution of misconduct by not providing a copy of the clown sighting file, a list of 40 other clowns spotted in Palm Beach County around the time of the murder. Tonight, we have the list. Plus, actor Kevin Spacey, accused of sexual misconduct in a civil lawsuit, takes the stand. Tonight's 13th juror question: these days, is it an advantage or disadvantage to be a celebrity accused of sexual misconduct? Get ready. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And I'll never forget, as a child, I don't know my exact age, I'm trying to remember, but I don't want to give away my age tonight, being terrified, because I used to watch the news all the time as a kid. I watched the news every night. The .44 caliber killer, the Son of Sam killer, was on the loose. And he was killing people in the New York area. I lived in Jersey, so he wasn't striking in Jersey. And I say that because I, too, was like scared to death of this killer that was out there. And to me, it was the first time, I think, in my life I came across the concept of a serial killer. Someone who's out there just taking people out for whatever reason, or no reason at all. And that fear that I had when I wasn't really, you know, a potential target. He never crossed the river to Jersey. He was over in New York and was targeting specific situations, I guess. But that whole concept, now out in Stockton, California, there's a serial killer on the loose and has been. And incredible fear in that community, and you could understand it. We experienced it a few years ago, and this is a video of the alleged killer. And it's like every video you get of a serial killer, right? It's enough to show you that it's real, but not enough to show you exactly who it is, right? We had a similar situation down in Seminole County, Florida. Or not in Seminole County, but down in Florida, in the Seminole Heights. The Seminole Heights killer, and they had some grainy video like this, and the community becomes paralyzed. What was happening in Stockton, California? Victims and survivors speaking out before the capture. Take a listen.
A man came around the corner, or whoever came around the corner, and they already had the gun out, and they just started shooting. You know, there was no words exchanged. He didn't say anything. Didn't come any closer. Just started shooting. I just saw flashes.
My mother and father were just heartbroken from this. You know, that's their first baby boy, and I know they have so many memories of, you know, of him.
And we experienced the same thing. Remember the D.C. snipers, right? Or the D.C. sniper, we thought, but it ended up being snipers, paralyzed our nation's capital. Like, people were afraid to get gas. Same thing was happening in Stockton. But tonight, good news. Take a look. We've got a mugshot of the accused, suspected serial killer. Guess what? I'm not going to say his name. You can find it in other places. Someone says it, it's fine. I'm just not going to use his name. But that's the face. That's the face of the suspected serial killer out in Stockton. Now I want to play for you the mayor. Wow, big news, because this is all people were thinking about. It's all that they were, you know, afraid to leave their homes. Afraid to leave their homes because this killer was out there. Take a listen.
We stood here just a couple of weeks ago, and we made it very clear to the public that these senseless acts of violence will not be tolerated. And that even though there wasn't any words that we could say that would bring back the lost loved ones, the least that we could do is do our part to help bring justice. And here we are today. As Chief said, there's a road ahead of us. We still have work to be done. But to the community, thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for exercising your voice. Thank you for submitting the hundreds of tips that have come in on a daily basis. This could not have been done, and today would not be made possible without you. But I want to make a special thank you to our brave men and women who are protected and have sworn to protect and serve this community. Your countless and tireless commitment and service to our community is one of the main reasons why we're here today. This community, this city, this Stockton Police Department is committed and dedicated to the people of this city. And public service, public safety still remains our #1 priority. And I want to make this very, very clear to the people of Stockton, California, the United States, and around the world, that when the people of our city of Stockton, California come together and we unite, we can get things done. Stockton will be a place where people can live, raise a family, and grow a business. This is a beautiful city. This is a city that each and every one of us call home. And we will not tolerate any acts of senseless violence. Those will be held accountable, and we will use every resource at our disposal to make sure the people of our city are protected and feel safe.
It's about feeling safe in your community. And it seems that folks in Stockton tonight can, again, relax for a moment because the suspected serial killer is in custody. But the question is, what happens next, right? What happens next? You know, this is the first part. You take someone off the streets. I don't suspect at the arraignment he's going to plead guilty. I don't think it's going to happen. We may have a trial here. We're going to have a death penalty trial. I don't know. We're going to have one trial, or we're going to have a series of trials for all of the murders in this case. How's that going to work? You know, it works differently in different situations. Down in Florida, you have the Seminole Heights killer, right? That's what everyone was calling him. You know, as soon as he got arrested, the killing spree ended. But the judge there severed all the cases. So the jury is sitting in judgment and trying to find the truth about whether or not someone's a serial killer, only they're not even told that he's a serial killer because it's just one murder at a time. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think we're kind of shielding the jury from the truth in that situation. I don't know how it's going to play out here in California, but let's take a listen to the district attorney giving us a sneak preview of where they are right now.
This crime was solved because we're Stocktonians. Because you don't come to our house and bring this kind of reign of terror and not mobilize 350,000 people, 780,000 in this whole entire county. Mobilized, and captured this individual whose reign of terror is no longer. The defendant will have charges, will be arraigned in court on Tuesday afternoon at 1:30. At that point, after the arraignment, we'll have a press conference announcing the charges and discussing those charges further with you. This is a very fluid and ongoing investigation. So we will most likely be adding charges, but at this time, we have to bring them before a magistrate within 48 hours. That clock's running now, so we have till Tuesday to bring them in.
All right, where do we go from here? Let's bring in the think tank. Joining us tonight in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. In Stamford, Connecticut, not a former prosecutor, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crosland, and in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Great to see everyone tonight. You know, I believe, and I always say this on the show, Al, a trial is supposed to be a search for the truth, Yet the last time I was covering a case involving a serial killer, the judge said, well, we're going to have separate trials for each one of these murders. Separate trials. Let's do them one at a time. To me, that's like putting blinders on the jury. If somebody's a serial killer or an accused serial killer, let the jury figure it out, because there's going to be a connection. There's going to be a pattern. Why do we sometimes shield the jury from the truth?
It's not necessarily shielding them from the truth. But first, let me just say this. Happy National Pasta Day, Vinny. I know that this is a big day for you. I know you're.
I thought every day was National Pasta Day.
Usually Wednesday is
Prince Spaghetti Day. I know that for sure.
That's correct. But I also have to set you straight on a little disillusionment you have with regards to the son of Sam. The letters that he mailed to Jimmy Breslin were postmarked from Englewood, New Jersey.
They were.
So he was over the bridge. He did come over into New Jersey. And
I was in harm's way. You remember that?
Way.
Al, you remember when that happened, the fear that everyone had. You didn't want to leave your house.
Well, they were patrolling in Englewood Cliffs, Englewood and Fort Lee, and actually thought that he worked at Prentice Hall, which was because of the way he wrote his style. They thought he was worked at a book publishing. So they had kept an eye on Prentice Hall, which is right near where I live. And the police were around. If we were out congregating on the corners or hanging out or something, they were always breaking us up because they were afraid of this killer. So they did think he was hanging out in Jersey. And he subsequently admitted to doing devil worshiping in the Palisades, which is Jersey.
Okay, so I'm glad I didn't know that then, but I'm glad I know that now. So Al, let's get back to today's serial killer, suspected serial killer. We should just have one trial and just lay it all out, let the jury figure it out. Either he's a serial killer or he's not.
But the thing is this, what does it matter if he's a serial killer or not? If he's a killer, he's a killer. And all you need to do is convict him of one. You don't want to confuse a jury sometimes by putting too much stuff. I think it's a lot easier from the prosecutorial standpoint. Even though they like to say we'd like to have everything together, from my standpoint, I want to dissect the case one at a time and put my best case forward, starting with the best case I have and working my way down to the worst case I have. If you put everything together, that leaves more opportunity for appeals and leaves more opportunity for confusing a jury with regards to your strong case versus your weak. So I think it's not a bad idea. I mean, look, I understand the Stockton serial killer is a horrible person, and I hope he's convicted of all of them. And Stockton, I mean, although they could not convict the Sons of Anarchy.
Is it just me? Is this the first time Al's having audio troubles? We're missing like every other word.
Oh, really?
Here we are.
Well, we've had a power outage. We've had power outages in New Jersey.
So let's get to Darnell, and Al will get back to you though. Don't worry. So Darnell, I know the way this plays out is that the defense will ask for separate trials as always, and try to isolate it and I don't want to say trick the jury, but sort of give the jury a different impression of exactly who this person is and what this case is about. Because this case is about a serial killer. It's not about someone who murdered one person. You're going to say, well, what was the motive? There was no, well, the motive is he's a serial killer. That's the motive. I mean, I want the whole thing in front of the jury so they can decide whether or not that is the truth.
Well, first of all, let me just make an announcement. I did not have to put sugar in my iced tea tonight because I'm in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia tonight, and the iced tea comes with sugar already in there. Sometimes to a diabetic level, but sugar nonetheless. As it relates to this case, what we're dealing with, and I always have to remind you guys, because remember, I'm the defense attorney here, and I have to remind you guys that what we have before us is an allegation that this individual killed more than one person.
I said suspected.
That's true. But the reason why the defense attorney asked for a bifurcation of these cases is because you don't want the jury to have to think that lightning struck more than once in the same place. And so if they're thinking that this person's accused of more than one killing, remember accused, they may say, well, he must be guilty if he's accused of all these killings. And therefore, like Al was saying, you try, well, the fair way is to try them one by one. And then if he's accused of each killing, then he'll be found guilty of each killing if they're going to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. But you don't want the jury to think because he was accused multiple times, he must have done these killings multiple times. And so I think that's why you try to bifurcate. Now, lastly, the prosecution always brings up, and you hate this, Vinnie, money. They always bring up judicial economy, that since these all arrived out of the same facts or circumstances, that we might as well do it all together to save some money. And that's only a backdoor way to unfairly trying a case.
Yeah, I'm not big on the money argument. I'm with you on that one, Darnell. I think our system should spend what you have to spend. I'm about the truth, because I can handle the truth, and I'm about the truth. Jennifer Brandt, you know what happened? The whole Son of Sam discussion, like, took your time tonight.
Of course, it always happens. It's Al. It's Al.
It's Al.
Vinnie, I'll just say really quickly, I'm for the truth too. And if you want to get to the truth of the matter is this guy is accused of killing multiple people, putting a community in fear. And therefore, the best way to present this is to tie all these cases together and present it to a jury at once. Never mind bifurcating and separating it out. This guy's a serial killer. We want him off the street. And you need to present that to the jury.
Okay, think tank with us the whole hour. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's happening out in Wisconsin. Live report from Chanley Painter in the Waukesha Christmas Parade case. The defendant representing himself, but today the jury saw some ring video of the defendant just before getting arrested. It is still hard to believe that someone would run over all those innocent people at a Christmas parade, but that's what the defendant is accused of doing. He's representing himself, which makes this trial very, very unusual. But the case was unusual from the beginning. And today, in the courtroom, the jury got to see some ring cam video of the defendant. This is after that SUV goes through the parade route, and then the defendant is at someone's house, and this whole back and forth is recorded on video. Take a look and a listen.
Hey, I'll call an Uber, and I'm supposed to be waiting for it over here, but I don't know when it's coming. Can you call it for me, please? I'm homeless.
The voice we heard in that exhibit that we just played, whose voice is that?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Objection.
You may answer, sir.
It's Mr. Brooks's voice.
My ID.
Very bizarre moment. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, joining us live tonight from Waukesha, Wisconsin. Chanley, great to see you. Tell us more about the testimony related to the arrest of the defendant here.
Yeah, this was a full day of testimony surrounding what happened after that red SUV left the parade route. And witness after witness had spotted a man matching the description of the suspect. About 3 witnesses testified to this man kind of emerging from the shadows and asking if he could use the cell phone to call an Uber. 2 of those witnesses did let this man use their cell phone, and he called his mother to call him an Uber. But there was one person who prosecutors call a good Samaritan, Daniel Ryder. And Vinnie, he had a man come on his front porch, Ring camera activated, and he welcomed him in with open arms. Let's watch.
I let him in the back door, and I think I gave him a coat right away, and then gave him my phone, and then told him where to sit down. And when I told him to sit in the spot, he didn't move or anything. He stayed right there and listened to me.
What else did you give him?
I gave him a sandwich because he said he was homeless. And I said, oh, I can get you some slippers to put on your feet to warm your feet up. I never did end up giving him slippers. But yeah, so I gave him a jacket to wear while he was at my house. I gave him a spot to sit and wait for the Uber and a sandwich.
Did he leave your home at some point?
Yeah, he left when I asked him to. So he was in my house for 8 or 9 minutes, and then I was standing on the front door looking outside because I was getting a little nervous because I thought the Uber would be there in a minute or 2, not 10. And so after 8 or 9 minutes, I'm looking around outside and I see a police car drive by. And then I see another one coming down the street. And so I tell him, I say, hey, we don't get a lot of police traffic on this street. I'm getting nervous, and this is just too weird of a situation. You're fine to wait for your Uber, but you need to do it outside of my house.
And then the jurors heard from those police officers who caught up with that suspect. Officer Rebecca Carpenter showed jurors her body cam video. Now, she was someone who was hearing the call about a man going door to door asking to use people's cell phones. Well, in her body cam video of Brooks' arrest, he identifies himself. So you can see the spotlight on the porch there, and they effectuate the arrest. This is from a different camera angle than obviously the Ring doorbell camera we just showed our viewers. He identifies himself as Darrell Brooks, even though he doesn't do that in court now. And officers found a sandwich in his pocket, also his ID, credit cards, and car keys on him, which we know from opening statements go to that red Ford Escape SUV, Vinnie.
That's, you know, you're putting together the pieces of this case very quickly. But the amazing thing is the contrast. I mean, that's why people move to Waukesha, because of people like Daniel Ryder, right? Someone homeless shows up on his porch, it's dark outside, invites him inside, gives him a sandwich, gives him his phone, and this guy is accused of mass murder, by the way. Unbelievable. Speaking of the defendant, representing himself, how was he acting in court today?
Most of the time, Vinnie, snide and irreverent comments, back talking to the judge, contentious with witnesses. It really did get under his skin when those witnesses on cross-examination would call him out on who he is, which is Darrell Brooks, and he would say, "You who?" over and over again. He repeats the same objections throughout the day, most all overruled. Here's a glimpse of some of those Darrell Brooks highlights.
Under special appearance on behalf of my client, with all rights reserved.
908.
Read it. I know what you're saying.
White.
Are you kidding me? So basically, it was just like, oh, do, walking the dog.
Yes. Appearing to you today.
What's the point of me asking questions if I can't ask anything?
Objection.
Grounds.
Relevance. Sustained.
Grounds for the sustain. The jury deserves to know this. They need to know.
I've sustained the objection, sir.
Can't keep hiding stuff from the jury. Since that is stated on the record, no further questions.
Finish your cross-exam as to
Just
the
said
limited
no further
time.
questions. I just said 2 times. I'm gonna say it again. No further questions.
Your belief that these are legitimate legal positions
They are.
doesn't change the law and doesn't make it so.
It's
So, again,
relevant because you didn't want to.
I'm going to step off and give Mr. Brooks 5 minutes to cool off.
Today, Vinnie, he said he was here as a third-party intervener on behalf of his client in court, which brings us to his defense case. The judge asking him today about the witness he's going to call, what order. He doesn't want to turn over that order to prosecutors, but they are expecting him to call his first defense witness on Wednesday. He subpoenaed around a dozen. The question is whether or not he will take the stand. Vinnie?
Or give an opening statement as well. We shall see. Chanley Painter in Waukesha tonight. Thank you so much, Chanley. Let's bring back in our think tank, Al Wunsch, Darnell, Crosland, Jennifer Brandt. Jennifer, what if you as a lawyer were acting that way in a courtroom? Would you be permitted to continue to represent your client?
Absolutely not, Vinny. I mean, he is just making a spectacle of this. We've said it before. Last week, I believe he said he was going to behave himself. He said he was, sorry for everything he did. And we predicted what would happen, that he would continue to act up and cause chaos. And that's exactly what he's going to do. So I don't think he's doing anybody any favors. He's a distraction, that's for sure.
Darnell, have you ever had a back and forth with a judge like that?
All the time, Vinny. It's just the way I roll.
Darnell would.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, though, about the way he is it's like, it's a roller coaster, obviously, from day to day. Do you think that because he's representing himself, he's given a little bit more leeway than an attorney would be given if they were acting this way?
Absolutely. What you find when you have self-represented people is that the courts, unlike if Jennifer was trying this case, Jennifer will be, chopped cheese by now. They really come down hard on lawyers who challenge the court because we have a license to lose. But with pro se's, they just give them all the leeway in the world. But I would say also the judges who will get frustrated with the self-represented person tends to give away the shop to the prosecution. For example, the prosecution said to Mr. Ryder, whose voice was it that you just heard? And he identified Darrell Brooks. That was improper, and it should have been the objection that he said was leading. He should have said it was objection, improper question, lack of foundation. The question should have been, do you recognize that voice? And how do you recognize that voice? That's the way you like foundation, because other than that, Mr. Ryder just can't, he's not an expert on voices. So he had to lay foundation and say, well, I recognize him because he was in my house and so forth and so on. That's laying foundation. So you tend to see that they give the pro se's a lot of leeway, but they also give away the shop to the prosecution in these type of scenarios.
Yeah, Al, I know you're all over the chopped cheese, but this trial is
chopped cheese.
It's in Wisconsin. Don't forget, the trial's in Wisconsin.
And I can tell you that there isn't one person in Wisconsin who has ever used the phrase chopped cheese. Shredded cheese, diced cheese, okay, sliced cheese, but chopped cheese? What the heck? Connecticut must be some weird state. Simple as that. But you know what, Vin, I have a way we can help this case out.
In 15
his
seconds.
His mother should be able to sit second chair, because she was able to calm him down in the beginning, and he was very good.
I agree with you. That's actually a good idea. That is actually a good idea from Al Wunsch tonight. Not that he doesn't have other good ideas, but that's a good one tonight. All right, everyone's staying where they are. When we come back, we're going to take you on the docket. Huge development in the killer clown case. You are not going to believe this. You will not believe this. That's all I'm telling you now. You have to stay tuned to find out.
Years ago, a person dressed as a clown, holding flowers and balloons, rang the doorbell at Marlene Warren's home. But when Marlene answered, the clown shot her to death.
Advanced DNA testing led authorities to Sheila Keene Warren. The defendant ended up marrying the victim's husband.
It's like a Lifetime movie plot.
This is going to be a riveting case.
The Killer Clown Murder Trial. Live coverage coming soon on Court TV.
And as you know, we are expecting that trial to begin this month. But now a new issue has arisen. The defense in their papers was alleging that there was a clown sighting file that they were never given. An actual file of clown sightings around the time of the murder. You know, tips called in from the public. Well, we had the state attorney on last week, Dave Arenberg, and I asked him about the clown sighting file.
Our prosecutors have turned over everything to the defense that we're required to, according to the discovery rules. As far as this file, if this file existed, they'd be getting it, and so that should tell you enough.
Well, it appears, according to the defense's latest papers filed with the court, that it does exist. There's an actual file. On the file folder, it says clown sightings, and there's a bunch of attachments that list all of these potential leads. So tonight, I'm going to share with you 7 of the 40 or so potential leads in finding a clown perhaps responsible for the murder based upon tips from the public. Down in South Florida, all of these clown sightings. Take a listen.
One person told police the clown he saw was very heavy, had a squeaky voice, and seemed irritated. The clown looked like a woman and was about 5'10". Someone else saw a clown around 4 in the afternoon coming out of Belvedere Road headed south on Military Trail. That person said the clown waved at him from the sidewalk on the corner next to a dealership. He described the clown as having a red nose, a red wig, and a hat. One anonymous caller said they saw a person in clown paint driving a white LeBaron east on Old Dixie on Saturday between 12 and 1. There was another clown sighting that day in North Miami. The caller told detectives he saw a female in a clown suit and a red wig getting into a white car. Another tip described a guy in a clown suit with sad face paint getting into a small yellow car. A Wendy's employee told police she waited on a man in a clown suit at the drive-thru the day of the homicide. She said the clown was rude to her when she asked why he was dressed as a clown. One tipster said they saw a clown at the McDonald's drive-thru that day around 12:30. That clown was described as strange and in a white car.
Remember, this case goes back to 1990. 2017, she was arrested. And it's just now, like days before the trial is supposed to begin, that the clown sighting file is given to the defense. Well, they're upset about it. They want sanctions. They've got a whole bunch of problems. How big of a problem is this? How huge of a development is this in the case? Let's bring back in our think tank Al Wunsch, Darnell, Crosland, Jennifer Brandt. Darnell, I'll have you go first. Let's say you're the defense here. You're getting ready for trial. You've been asking for this file, and now you finally get it, and there's like 40 leads in there. What does that do to the case? What is the proper remedy at this point?
Well, since in America you're really guilty until proven innocent, nothing's going to happen. But what should happen is a motion for mistrial immediately, and then, as you said, since this case is so old, a motion for bond. So obviously the law leans towards pretrial release as opposed to detention if there could be a set of circumstances put in place to secure the public and secure the individual and to make sure the individual comes to court. And whenever there's a situation like this, where there's Brady material that seems to be maliciously withheld, I think the court should support a motion for mistrial. And if they don't give the mistrial, then they should at least allow some kind of a curative instruction or curative approach, but allow the person to be let out on bond, because the prosecution case, in my opinion, just got weaker.
Al Wunsch, there's a bunch of things that shock me about this, but one of them is that there were like 40 clown sightings in South Florida.
Well, first of all, not so fast. Darnell, okay? Not so fast. The cheese was king down there. But it's not an odd situation, Vin, because isn't the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey
Different part of Florida. Different part of Florida. That's
but
up
there's
near
still
Sarasota.
it's still a clown college in the area, and so these guys may be out on spring break. But so it can certainly happen, okay? But you know, this is a very peculiar situation that you would have all of these clown spottings. But the best part is that somebody at a drive-through window asked the guy why he's wearing a clown. Okay, that's a brilliant, brilliant situation. But it wasn't a very nice gesture by the clown to get angry at him.
So, Jennifer Brandt, what should happen here? You know, I'm all for prosecution, but something in my gut tells me this just wasn't right. The fact that they've been asking for this, and this is a big deal, I think, because these are other clowns that are cited. We're looking for a clown. So what were the other leads related to clowns? What's the other information? What do you think should happen here?
Well, I agree. It's a problem because it seems like the prosecution had a really strong case. I mean, there might be a lot of clowns driving around Florida at the time, but this particular clown was connected to the victim's husband. So this was a clown that really had some motive here, perhaps. And to withhold the names and the sightings of the other clowns, I think was a mistake. It didn't seem to get them anywhere. I mean, only to cause problems now, and perhaps a mistrial, like Darnell said, based on all this new evidence or this evidence that never came out before. And by the way, Vinny, I don't think it's so unusual that you have a bunch of clowns driving around. I mean,
where do you live again?
In Philadelphia, we have lots of clowns. No, but I mean, there are parties and things like that. You do see clowns on the road from time to time. So I don't think it's so unusual.
And I get it. You know, they're working birthday parties and other things. All right. Darnell, at the end of the day, this would not be a reason to have the charges dismissed, would they?
Not to have the charges dismissed, but for a mistrial. The charges shouldn't be dismissed because of this, unless the jury came back with a verdict.
Well, no, we have no jury yet. I mean, the trial was supposed to start like next week. I mean, it was supposed to start. So this is like days before jury selection begins. So I'm trying to figure out, because the 20th there's going to be a hearing, and I'm very concerned. I want there to be a trial. I want there to be a search for the truth of what actually happened to Marlene Warren. And if Sheila Keene Warren did it, I want her prosecuted. If the evidence isn't there, I want her set free. But I want the jury to figure this out.
Well, you probably like this one. Unless Ms. Mosby is prosecuting this one, it's not going to be dismissed based on this.
Okay. And by the way, Al, you owe Darnell an apology. Chopped cheese is a type of sandwich originating in New York City, throughout the Bronx and Queens, Upper Manhattan. It's on a grill, ground beef, onions, mixed with melted cheese, served with lettuce, tomatoes on a hero roll, kind of like a cheesesteak, Jennifer, down in Philly, but it's in New York. That's a chop.
I'm from the Bronx.
Yeah, that's a chop. That's a chopped cheese sandwich.
Somebody called me a cheesesteak.
Wait a minute. What do you call a clown that goes to jail?
No idea.
A silly con.
Okay, very good. Florida versus Sheila Keene Warren, motion hearing October 20th. This is when we can find out if there's going to be a trial, you know, because the defense is angry right now. Angry, and they're asking for sanctions and other things, so we'll see what happens. In the meantime, when we come back, time to hear from you, our 13th juror, Kevin Spacey, on trial on the witness stand today. We'll be right back. Kevin Spacey leaving court today in New York. He's in the middle of a civil suit being sued for sexual misconduct. So I posted on social media and asked you, is it an advantage or a disadvantage these days to be a celebrity on trial accused of sexual misconduct? We begin with our 13th juror comment of the day. Comes to us from Pierre, who says, definitely a disadvantage because prosecutors and jurors see it as an abuse of power and go harder at them versus Joe Schmo. Jennifer Brandt, advantage or disadvantage?
Definitely a disadvantage. Things have changed. The tides have turned. And once it was celebrities could just pretty much do what they wanted to do and get away with it. Now we've seen a big change in things. And there are, you know, because someone makes an allegation of a sexual assault, you almost imagine that the celebrity's guilty based on all of that we've seen. So I think it's much harder for them these days than it was, say, 5-10 years ago.
Valerie, tonight, well, my first thought is it's an advantage if you're Johnny Depp. Otherwise, if social media doesn't like you, you're on your own to sink or swim. I'm just saying. Darnell, what are you saying tonight? Advantage or disadvantage to be a celebrity?
Well, it's definitely a disadvantage. So the 13th juror that just spoke, she kind of confused the issues. If it's one celebrity against another celebrity, then it's an advantage being a celebrity, and the bigger celebrity wins. But when it's an innocent casting member or someone in an office setting, something like that, it's definitely a disadvantage because from Weinstein, Epstein, Cosby, and the likes, now our society wants to hold everybody liable. And so this is not the time to jump into that class.
Mike, tonight, it's always worse being a celebrity and letting the whole world know about his or her sexual misgivings. Also, the prosecutor would get a pretty big feather in his cap if a charge resulted in a successful prosecution. The Spacey case is a civil case, by the way. Al, what do you think? Advantage or disadvantage? Is there any advantage to being a celebrity? How about being a celebrity who's an actor?
I think that sometimes there is an advantage at acting, okay, as long as you don't make a stupid move like Spacey and going on camera and making comments and making, you know, bizarre videos that he sends out around Christmas that has everybody scratching their head, or even like Alec Baldwin, who is sending out, you know, interview after interview talking about how innocent. I think that that can backfire. But I think a good, skilled actor who knows his place, follows his attorney's advice, can actually do better than a layperson.
All right, hate to chop you off here, Al, but we're out of time. Yeah. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crosland, Jennifer Brandt, thank you all so much. Great to see you tonight, and we'll see you again really soon.